Urban legends were once spread from person to person, often getting changed a tiny bit each time. Now, in this digital age, urban legends are talked about in various groups, online forums. Some are even uploaded as videos so you can watch and play along. There are even some that are tied to real-life places and tragedies where the legends have proven deadly. There are some who don't believe any of them and say they are just stories handed down over the centuries, while others have total belief in them. So here are 5 of the more modern urban legends. You may not have heard of all of them, but the thing is, would you believe in them? Number 5, the children's show that never existed. There are stories you hear in this life that are designed to disturb, and there are others that get under your skin because they sound like they could actually be real. Candle Cove is one of the creepiest internet mysteries ever written. It revolves around a children's TV show that no one can quite prove ever existed. Now, this one will show just how our brains can invent things that aren't real. This started out as a casual forum thread where someone asked if anyone remembered a puppet show called The Candle Cove from the 1970s. Plenty of others did remember the show, and together they shared their memories of it, all describing it in the same way. It was a very budget pirate adventure where a little girl imagined herself out at sea. She was joined by puppets with names such as Pirate Percy, a nervous, jittery figure with painted-on eyes. Of course, there had to be a villain, Horace Horrible, but the most disturbing character was one called the Skin Taker, a puppet supposedly made of human skin who ground his teeth constantly and only spoke in whispers. This wasn't an entertaining kids' show meant to educate. This was something else entirely. From there, the memories shared got even darker. Someone remembered an episode where the puppets did nothing but scream into the camera for 30 minutes straight. Another person remembered an episode where the puppets just stared into the camera for the whole show with their heads tilting in unnatural ways. Even though plenty of people remembered the show, no one could ever find tapes of its existence. There were no production credits, just these scattered, freaky memories. Then came a creepy revelation. One of the forum members asked their mother about Candle Cove, and her mother said that she was surprised she could remember that. She would tell her mother she was going to watch Candle Cove, and then would sit there just watching static on the TV screen for 30 minutes. Her mother just thought it was childhood imagination about pirates. And that's where this story crosses into something scarier than fiction. Psychologists have done many studies into how our minds can invent details that have never even happened. It's called the Mandela effect, where groups of people remember the same false event. The human brain doesn't perfectly record experiences like a camera. It actually reconstructs them. If the story is compelling enough and the details fit just right, then people can genuinely believe they have lived through something that never existed. That's what makes Candle Cove terrifying. The people in that thread weren't pretending. They were all convinced they had watched the show. Stories of kids seeing things in static isn't anything new. Reports go back decades. Children staring at white noise on a TV and insisting they can see faces, hear voices, or watch figures moving. That's exactly why this urban legend gained so much attention. There are many things we experience in the world but can't explain. So what's the truth about Candle Cove? The answer is, it never existed. Not on some late-night TV show or some forgotten UHF channel. Not even as lost footage buried in archives. Candle Cove was never a TV show. It was actually written by author Chris Straub as an experiment. He presented it as a fake forum thread and got friends and family to join in, saying they remembered the show. It wasn't long before members of the public started to join in, saying they also remembered watching the show and went into detail about the characters. Candle Cove just shows how powerful stories can be, not just to entertain us, but to reshape what we think we remember, which is scarier than any puppet show on screen. So that's certainly one urban legend that has been proved to not be true. Even so, there are people who still insist they watched the show and can remember everything about it. Number 4. The Bunny Man. In the suburbs of Fairfax County, Virginia, there's a story locals don't really like to share, not because it's silly, but because to them is horribly real. For decades, there has been talk of a figure in a bunny suit. Now, this wasn't some prankster wearing the suit for laughs. Witnesses swore he carried an axe and a warning. This so-called Bunny Man has haunted Virginia since the 1970s. Although the description of him varies, there are two details that always remain the same. He wears a dirty white or gray bunny costume and carries a blade in his hands. As the legend is talked about over time, the stories have grown darker. Children have claimed to have come across mutilated animals hanging from trees in the local woods. Some have even accused him as having something to do with disappearances around the town of Clifton. At the center of it all was a place known as the Colchester Overpass, although the local people know it by a different name, Bunny Man Bridge. The first report was in October of 1970, when United States Air Force Academy cadet Robert Bennett and his girlfriend were parked in Guinea Road in Burke. They had just been to a high school football game. The night was calm, and according to a report in the paper, the pair pulled over in a quiet spot so they could sit and talk. But then glass exploded around them. The passenger side window had been smashed in. Outside there was a man in a white bunny costume. He said, "You are on private property. I have your tag number." Terrified, the couple sped off, and on the floor of the car they found the weapon that had been used to break the glass, an axe. Then on October the 29th, there was another sighting. A construction security guard named Paul Phillips spotted an adult in a rabbit suit holding on to one of the support beams of an unfinished house. In his hand he carried an axe. Like Robert, the guard heard the man talking about trespassing, saying, "You are trespassing, and if you come any closer, I'll chop off your head." It was soon in the local newspaper, and it sent the whole town into a panic. The worst fact was that the Bunny Man had vanished, and no one knew where he would turn up next. By the 1980s, the Bunny Man had shifted from being a psychopath to more of a legend around these parts of town. Some locals swore he was an escaped mental patient, and others said he was a killer who hung his victims beneath the bridge. Of course, none of these stories were ever verified, but retelling them just added fuel to the fire. Soon the Bunny Man wasn't just a story you heard. He became something to be scared of, something that teenagers would use as a rite of passage. If you wanted to be in with the cool kids, then you had to hang out at the bridge at midnight all alone. Paranormal groups would show up with cameras hoping to catch a glimpse of something they couldn't explain. The legend even reached TV screens. A show called The Scariest Places on Earth featured the bridge. As time went on, it was hard to tell where fact ended and legend began. Skeptics say that the Bunny Man was no more than an unidentified vandal, a man who swung an axe and scared a few people then vanished. The rest of the stories, they say, are just small-town gossip told for the horror value. The fear he left behind is very real, though. The legend became so powerful that police now block off Colchester Pass every Halloween night. Not because they expect the Bunny Man to appear, but because too many people risk their lives hoping he will. It's a very busy underpass, with many cars and trucks going through it. Maybe someday he will show up again. Things don't really need to be true to be dangerous. All it takes is one person and one weapon to make the Bunny Man come back. Number 3. The Catman of Greenock. 25 miles from Glasgow is the fishing town of Greenock in Scotland. At first glance, it looks like the perfect place. Rolling hills, green land everywhere, and the view of the River Clyde. It has a proud shipbuilding history, but for decades a much darker presence has haunted the street of Greenock. If you ask anyone who grew up there, the chances are they will have heard about him, the Catman. According to the legend, when the sun goes down and the moon comes up, this figure emerges. He crawls on all fours, stalking alleyways and industrial buildings, his eyes glinting in the dark like an animal searching for prey. It's said that he has the body of a man, but his skin is stained a deep coal black as though he is covered in soot. He bites into live rodents, and his diet is no different to the strays he shares his lair with. They say he is some sort of human-animal hybrid. For years, the Catman was dismissed as just a scary story that circulated the area to give this small town a little more character. Then in 2007, the legend became a reality. That year, a small boy spotted something crawling underneath parked cars in Greenock, so took his phone out and started filming. What he captured shocked the entire town. The footage you will see is the actual footage that was taken. There was a man with blackened skin crawling along the ground, clutching a rat between his teeth. The figure turned to face the camera, and his eyes locked onto the lens. They were blank and piercing. He continued to chew on the dead rat. The clip went viral, creating a frenzy online. After that, photos started appearing across various social media sites and news outlets, which the entire world saw. They all showed the same image, a Manish-looking figure with glowing eyes. Dabu crawled low to the ground, his body smeared with dirt, so the Catman was no longer just a legend. But who really was he? Some still believed he was some type of cryptid, maybe the last remaining of his breed. Others say he is a man with mental health problems who has been left to fend for himself for decades. There was even a rumor that he was an immigrant who had become stranded in Greenock in the 1970s. He then withdrew from society until he became something less or more than human. The interesting thing is, people claim the Catman has never changed. From the 1980s to the 2000s, people say he looked exactly the same. The blackened skin, glowing eyes, and crawling along the floor. There was no sign of aging, no difference at all over the years. Was it the same man, or could there have been more than one? Over time, the Catman became a frightening urban legend to some, an object of pity to others, and a good money-making photo opportunity for the rest. People left scraps of food out for him, like they would for a stray animal. Some swore they saw him sleeping with stray cats in abandoned buildings like he was part of their group. So, was this truly a supernatural being, or was he a man so far gone from society that he no longer felt human? Reports circulated that he died sometime in 2010. Others think he's still out there, crawling in the shadows through Greenock. The Catman shows how thin the line is between myth and reality. Whether he was a cryptid, a lost human, or something more stranger, he certainly left his mark on Greenock. Number 2, the Red Room Curse. Have you ever clicked online and found something you shouldn't? Maybe a pop-up that just won't close. No matter how many times you click on that cross, it just keeps coming back. Maybe you've tried to close down your computer to try and get rid of it. Most of the time, this is successful. But what if you've clicked on the close button and the screen flickers before an eerie voice comes through your speakers? And when you try to shut down your computer, it just won't let you. That's the start of the internet's darkest urban legends, called the Red Room Curse. This first started in Japan in the late 1990s, spreading through early internet forums, places like AOL chat rooms and geosites, which were places where people could create themed communities, like they do on Reddit nowadays. According to the legend, a cursed flashed animation suddenly popped up on screen out of nowhere. At first it looked like a simple pop-up, a red box with the words, "Do you like?" Try and close it though, and it comes back over and over again, until finally the message is complete and reads, "Do you like the Red Room?" By then your computer screen is filled with red. A list of names scrolls along, probably the victims who saw the message before you, and behind the screen you sense something. Like someone is in the room with you. The legend says the next day you will be found dead. The room you are in will be painted red, not with paint, but with your own blood. It sounds intense, but unlike most internet ghost stories, the Red Room Curse isn't just a creepy story. It's connected to a real crime. In 2004, Japan was shocked with the infamous Seibo slashing. An 11-year-old girl, known only as Girl A, ordered another girl into a classroom and then viciously attacked her with a knife. Investigators later searched her computer. Among the anima sites and chat rooms, they found something disturbing, a bookmark to the Red Room animation. The case went viral in the Japanese media, and suddenly the Red Room legend wasn't just some online hoax or scare. It was linked to a real-life true crime. Over time, the story took on a life of its own. As the internet grew, the Red Room became associated with the dark web. Rumors spread about live streams where people were tortured and killed while viewers paid to watch. Now there's no real evidence that these Red Room streams existed, at least not in the way the legend claims. It's nearly impossible to broadcast such things without being traced and getting caught. but the idea stuck in the minds of many, especially when the internet was new. The Red Room shifted from a pop-up curse to the ultimate symbol of the web's darkest places. The Red Room curse is part ghost story and part cautionary tale, and can play on our fear of technology. The internet we often trust and need can be the doorway into something much, much darker. Number 1. The Pope Lick Monster. In Louisville, Kentucky, there's a huge, ugly steel railway bridge which goes over Pope Lick Creek, and for decades people have warned about the figure that supposedly guards it. The Pope Lick Monster, part man, part goat, he is said to lure people onto the tracks. People say it mimics voices. Some say it can hypnotize you into walking right in front of an oncoming train. Whether it's a spirit, a demon, or simply a campfire story that's gone too far, there's definitely some real-life truths to this legend affecting a dozen victims in total. Stories differ about the creature's origins and its methods in claiming its victims. Some say the creature lures its victims onto the tracks where they meet their death by walking into an oncoming train. Another story says the monster uses a blood-stained axe to attack its victims. And yet another claim is the creature can hypnotize passers-by into walking in front of a train. So where did it all start? On June the 1st, 1985, John List was out for a nighttime walk with his friend Randall Gray. They climbed onto the Pope Lick Bridge. The bridge is 90 feet high and 800 feet long, and there is no walkway, so no way to escape an oncoming train. The two were there shooting at crows, something a lot of locals did despite the obvious danger. When a train approached, they were left with seconds to react. John didn't make it in time and was struck by the train, leading to his death. Randall only just escaped by climbing over and hanging on to the side of the bridge, dangling 90 feet in the air. This was exactly the type of accident the locals had warned about for years, and it only added to the Pope Lick Monster's legend because it said the creature lures victims onto the tracks. In 1992, 19-year-old Grady, a Miami University student, was drawn to the bridge late at night, reportedly to see the place tied to the monster's stories. At 1:45 a.m., a train thundered down the tracks. Grady was trapped and tried to save himself by dangling from the bridge rails. He tried to hold on until the train had passed, but human hands can't grip forever, and the vibration from the train only made it worse, and Grady lost his grip, fell, and was killed. The stories about being hypnotized and being drawn onto the bridge was thought to be the reason why Grady was there. Just a year later, in 1993, a young girl called Christina and several friends also tested their courage on the bridge. When a train came, they had no choice, put to press themselves against the sides of the structure, clinging on for dear life as hundreds of tons of steel rushed past inches away. Christina froze in terror, unable to move even after the train had passed by. In the end, firefighters had to rescue her, carrying her off the bridge. Although she survived, the trauma left her shaken and she was never the same again. These aren't isolated events. More injuries and deaths have happened since, all linked to people looking for the Pope Lick Monster. Psychologists call it legend tripping. It's a phenomenon where people visit dangerous places to try to prove legends and folklore, either to tell their friends what they have done or to try and get a glimpse of whatever monster is supposed to be lurking there. But why do people risk their lives for something that might not even exist? It could be to do with our fascination with weird and strange things. Maybe those who go there want to be the ones who prove a legend is not a legend, but something real. No one has ever seen the Pope Lick Monster, or no one has ever proved they have seen him. The stories about him have gotten changed over the decades, as is the usual case with legends. Something draws people to that bridge, and it's most likely the thrill of thinking they could be the one to see the monster. But I doubt that will ever happen. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Please like, subscribe, and press the bell to get notified of every new story I upload. Thanks for watching.